This video is made in partnership with AvBuyer, the home of all aircraft for sale worldwide and the latest actionable intelligence in print, digital, and online. Check out avbuyer.com.
Hey guys, welcome to the Jet Life Podcast. It's time. I'm your ultimate jet guide, and today I'm joined with Kandi with JetAviva. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, pleasure. Yeah, let's talk about, what buyers need to know. Do you deal with first-time buyers?
What I do, actually, I've had a lot of first-time buyers.
For the big stuff?
Well, what's funny is they've come in, and I've already upgraded them once or twice. The newcomers to aviation, like in 2020 and 2021, they're already upgrading into larger cabins. So
yeah, we'll talk about that. Like,
yep.
What do you need to think about? Because a lot of people come to me, and it's like, hey, Tom, I want to buy a jet for $1 million or less.
Yeah.
And then how do you transition from that light jet into a mid-size jet? It sounds like you have experience out enough.
Yeah, the big thing for me is making sure that they understand what the cost of ownership is. I've had it happen a lot where people have come to me not realizing how much an airplane is going to cost them.
The cheapest part's mine.
Yeah, and they go to maintain it or they go to sell it, and they're just really disappointed in the experience, and then they're out completely. I would much rather have them understand the cost of owning a jet. I mean, at the end of the day, we're selling time.
Right.
That's what we sell.
Yeah.
If they come up with time travel, we're out of a job.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
So we sell time, and we got to make sure that they understand that that's got to be part of their equation. But I want to make sure they truly understand the acquisition cost, the operating cost, and then the one that gets forgotten a lot is, what is that residual value going to look like? And that's all part of the equation that I like to explain to people. It's the reason I don't get into Hawker.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they're not bad airplanes. They're actually,
not,
they're great, right? But you also have to realize that it's not going to be the most desirable airplane in a down market.
Yeah, I agree 100%. So what are you seeing 2024 coming up? What are you seeing what should buyers be aware of?
Yeah, I mean, this is, we're still in uncharted territory.
Right?
Yeah. It feels very fuzzy. I don't have a clear line of sight on what.
We used to be like, it's going to be worth less.
Yeah.
Right, that was it.
But we are seeing inventory numbers really stabilize on a lot of makes and models. They're still going up on some. I don't think we're going to be looking at any big change in 2024, even though it's an election year, even though we're talking about
that, yep.
Interest rates, things like that. I think we might return to a normal annual depreciation.
Right. And what do you see in the mid-size, light-size, the jets? You're thinking 10%, 8 to 10%?
Typically, unless it's the first year, I always say the ski hill is steep ascent at the beginning, right? But once you get past year 3, you're looking anywhere from 7 to 8% a year is what I've seen in the mid-cabin market.
Yeah. So do you deal with a lot of first-time buyers in the mid-cabin market?
I have this past 3 years.
Okay, yeah.
Traditionally speaking, prior to COVID, probably 20% of my business is first-time buyers.
Gotcha.
And then that ramped up, honestly, to about 80%.
Wow.
But it's starting to now, I'm coming back down below that 50%.
So many questions I want to ask you, but one thing I'm seeing in the mid-size world is people are looking at mid-size because they're looking at putting it on a charter certificate. What advice, tips do you have for someone that's considering mid-size jet for the purpose of, I need a tax write-off?
Yep.
I need minimal access to my aircraft, 50 hours a year or less. I got a guy that's telling me I'll put it on his certificate. I think we both would agree that, okay, you're probably not going to make money, but it might be a viable play. If it is a viable play, you go through all the numbers. What are some tips that you might kind of share with them going into that?
Yeah, markets change. Demand changes.
Yeah. They can be very, very fickle.
Yeah, and charter operators are very eager to bring clients on right now. Charter demand is still higher than it was pre-COVID. It's come down off of its peak. But I've always told people, especially because I have a charter background, you don't buy an airplane to make money.
Agreed.
You might have made money in the last 2 years.
True.
Absolutely. There was a lot of demand.
So ask the operator for the pre-COVID numbers.
Yes.
So with the pre-COVID demands.
I think it's a good option for people looking to offset their costs.
There it is.
That's what charter is. You're going to have increased wear and tear, something like that. But buy the airplane because you need the airplane, not because you're going to make profit.
What do you see, since you're the mid-size jets, what is the hit that an owner will take if they put it on a charter because increased wear and tear?
Yeah.
Big hit, little hit. Because maybe we want to back up and say, there's a couple of things that people should take into account when they're buying it. We kind of went through the three that you like to talk to, and our chair's kind of something a ton. So what are those things?
Well, primarily that has to do with the charter operator that you're working with. So you got to be very selective. It's great to have pro forma numbers to work with, but at the end of the day, I would get on some of their talk with some of their other owners that have used that company to put charter on the airplane and say, how are they doing? Are they making sure that people are taking care of the airplane? Are they vetting who they're using? I've been around back in the 2000s when there was a lot of rock groups chartering airplanes out of Southern California, and you had some that took care of the airplane, drank tea. They would drink tea before they performed. Those are the charter people that you want, right? And then you had the partiers, man. They had women on board. There was clothes, staying, drink,
Put a black light in there.
Those people charter. So it really, it is added wear and tear, but how that's managed really is up to which manfred marry.
So when someone's looking to buy a private jet, there are a couple of things that you had mentioned that you'd like to tell them about in terms of operating costs. And what are those criteria? And the one that you're feeling automobile also.
Well, right now, the big wild card, quite frankly, is pilot. It is right? Pilot salaries are going up substantially. And that's one that I think is shocking, even people that have owned airplanes for 20 years, right? I think there's a bit of an overcorrection going on right now. I feel like being a pilot or even a mechanic in this industry was a little undervalued
I agree.
For a long time. And, these guys, they're on call 24/7. It's tough to have a family life, all those things, right? Now we have this massive shortage because of the airlines, and they can almost name their price, right? And so we're kind of swinging the pendulum. So I'm glad to see salaries are coming up, but it's getting a little out of control. And so it's tough to predict that.
Yep.
But you have to have a pilot to fly your airplane. So, you've got to do that. The other thing, I think, insurance costs. We've seen a lot of the insurance industry have pretty big losses this year.
Yeah.
And so even on single pilot qualified airplanes, they're requiring 2 pilots. And you've lost an advantage of having a single pilot airplane. So the insurance companies are kind of driving some unpredictable costs. And then I guess the last thing is maintenance.
Yeah.
You've probably seen the same thing. Maintenance costs have gone up 40%.
Cost and availability.
Right.
It's not just about, how much more you're paying for it, but how long it's going to take to get your plane back.
Yeah.
Or if you can even get it seat when you need it.
Parts availability, we're having a lot of supply chain issues. So, gone are the days like, the boss saying, I don't care what it costs, I need my airplane on Thursday. There's just nothing that they can do. If you rental engines, can't get rental engines. So those are the things that kind of worry me going into 2024. It's not, how prices are going to do. It's more about how do we keep these airplanes in the end?
Yeah. And having a trusted advisor like someone at JetAviva or a broker that kind of understands that puts these things on your radar. There's a lot of brokers out there. You call them on control of their order takers.
Yeah.
Here's the price. All right, whatever. And they don't think to, hey, have you worked with finance guy? Do you have insurance? Do you have a pilot? Do you have a mechanic?
Yeah.
They don't put these things on your radar. You're so don't think like the mechanic matters.
Right.
Guy who's driving and flying, it matters.
and book a training.
Training.
Like
Yeah.
you're
Yeah, you got your buddy. I've got a guy right now. He's got a buddy who's finishing up his commercial. They're looking to buy a jet. It's like, well, what about type rating?
Yeah.
How are we gonna play that?
Gotta think about all that stuff. So that's great.
Absolutely. So one of the questions I was wondering with the midsize, one thing that you talked about, and I think is really important for people to consider is what is the value of the jet when you go to sell it? Can you speak to that in general? So if someone's looking to buy a jet, how do I keep in mind what's this thing going to be worth later on? And what does that look like in a midsize?
Things to consider for me, most of the value of your airplane is going to be tied up in the engines.
Engines.
Yeah. And, I've got very strong opinions about engine programs and airframe programs and whatnot. Because I used to work for one of the providers, so I know these things pretty well. In a nutshell, and I won't go into like great detail, I'm a huge fan of engine programs.
Okay, that's it. Yeah, got it.
This is like whole life insurance. When you go to sell the airplane, even if you've never done an overhaul or anything like that, you're going to get the value of that going forward. And if things go off in the night, it's covered.
Yep.
On the airframe programs, you got to be real careful, depending on the manufacturer, what the contract states. And so, for instance, like on Pro Parts, like that's just an account.
Well, it's wrote down.
It's an account. You're not like saving any money because when you go to sell that airplane, you're required to pay back the negative balance. Ooh, not. And if there's money left over, you only get 65 cents on the dollar.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right? So that is childlike.
That's a short right there.
Yeah.
That's a YouTube short right there.
So what's interesting about it is there's one little like loophole, and that is if you don't renew it. If you terminate the contract, that's true. You have to pay back the negative, and you only get 65 cents on the dollar. You're never going to time the sale of your aircraft exactly right, because you're doing a free-buy inspection.
Yeah.
And that's when you really want it.
Yeah.
But you don't want to have to pay back the negative balance.
Yeah.
So your contract, that's the only time you're not required to pay back a negative is if you let the contract fulfill its 3-year term. And again, we're talking about Pro Parts. So I tell people, if you want kind of the extended warranty program, then it's okay for the first year. But if it does well, like the airplane, doesn't have a lot of issues, you just want to make sure you're working out the bugs, you do the first 3 years and then just let it go. Because then you don't have to pay back the negative.
Yep.
So I'm a big fan of engine programs. I'm a big fan of APU programs, which we have on the mid-cabin. And you got to be careful about annual minimums.
True. Flight minimums,
Right? So some of the programs don't require annual minimums. Some of them do. I've got a client right now that's flying 100 hours a year. So I'm very specific and very deliberate about which airplanes we're going to be making offers on. Because I don't want to get them a bill every year for something that they're using.
Yeah.
But
I think that could be your tip.
that is the tip. That is the resaleability is going to be largely in your engines and making sure that the airplane is supporting.
Gotcha.
I don't want to get into anything too old.
Yeah.
Unless you're comfortable being the last owner.
For sure. I get it. No, I get it. What's some of the most creative uses? You mentioned time machines.
Yeah.
Creative uses for the jets, whether it be for personal, for business. Just trying to give people an idea of like, oh, I've never thought about that before. We'll use my jet in that way. I think, yes, it's just slam dunk. I definitely want to buy a jet.
It's more the business model than like for everyone. Sure. But one of my longtime clients, he's been with me for a long time, 10 years probably. He works with a hospital network, or he is a hospital network, and he uses his King Airs, fleet of them that I've helped him buy, to get specialists, doctors, surgeons, specialists to rural parts of the country.
Getting your team out there.
Yeah, so they are able to go to Bismarck or North Platte or something, remote area so people can get specialized medicine. And then that person comes back to Denver and that doctor gets to go home every night. It's just like he showed up at his local hospital and worked there, except now the people that live in rural America have access to this really good medicine in rural parts of America.
So it's twofold. It gets your team out to remote places that you couldn't go elsewhere, and it gets a team back in a timely fashion that is helping you either maybe do more business or do higher quality business.
Higher quality, right?
Yep.
He gets to go home to his family, or she gets to go home at night, spend time with their family, and then get up the next day and go have a positive impact, and give people access to medicine that they may not otherwise have.
I really appreciate that. That's
Yeah.
Kandi, thank you so much. I'm going to do a quick intro, but thank you so much for being here.
Yeah.
And where can people find you?
I'm at JetAviva.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What's your channel?
I am on a YouTube channel that I've got a little bit of content in there, and I'm going to be picking that back up soon. But I'm at Jet Advisor is the YouTube channel, so check me out, and at jetaviva.com.